Hey, welcome to the third tutorial in this series. Today we're going to be adding those prongs to the zigzag ring that we made in the last two classes. You don't have to have seen those videos in order to follow along with this one, but if you are trying to follow along, go ahead and watch those tutorials first. So when we made our zigzag rings, I ended up making three. That way I could pick the one I wanted to for these rings and then use the other ones for other projects. Here are my prong settings. We've got a pair over here on this side with our 5x7 sunstone and a round 4mm sunstone. You know, I left the tops arched over on those prongs because it makes it a lot easier to polish them and work with them while I'm soldering them on. I like to play around with the rings on a mandrel so I can just test and see how things are going to look before setting them up for soldering. Okay, let's take a quick look at my soldering setup here. Zoom out. You can see here I've got some third hands holding the prongs in place and then another third hand holding the ring in place. And this step is probably one of the most important. Spend as much time as you need getting it lined up so that when you're looking through the ring, it's not protruding, it's not tilted either side or front to back. I've got flux on there and I've got the solder sitting on each seam so that it's touching both pieces. One nice thing about the third hands is that they will also help pull heat from the prongs, preventing those prongs from getting too hot. We're using a decent sized flame here because I want to make sure that I can get the ring hot, but not so hot that I melt anything previously. Go in gently so that you can get the flux to harden, and then start slowly heating the entire piece. Be mindful that there are solder joints everywhere on here, so you want to start then concentrating the heat directly underneath. There we go. So I've got this out of the pickle. As you can see, I went ahead and decided to add another prong mount. I added my round prong to the same ring, which you can do if you're careful. Just be sure to use easy solder. And you can add as many as you want to. I'm going to add a couple more little elements to this ring before I finish it up. All right, so here it is out of the pickle. As you can see, I've got some really good, strong soldering connections in here. So I can get that in focus. Holding those in on both sides. I managed to do it without melting any of my previous solder joints, and I went ahead and added these droplets along here. I also have a short video explaining how I added these droplets here, because I actually did not do them one at a time. I did all four at the same time. So I'll put a link in the description for that one. Now I'm going to go ahead and oxidize this, polish it up, and set the stones. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the part where I set the stones now. I have a bunch of videos in my 100 and 200 series to talk more about oxidizing and polishing. Next thing I'm going to do so that these loops don't catch on any of my polishing cloths is I'm just going to go ahead and snip those short here. I'm just trying to remove the loop off the top. I still want to leave myself plenty of prong to work with because you can always cut off more later, but it's a lot harder to add it back on again. Now let's go ahead and oxidize this, and then I'll catch back up with you when I start setting the stones. All right, I've got my ring clamped down here. Make sure that when you clamp your ring down that you just barely tighten this inner ring clamp, otherwise you will expand out the size of the ring. And I'm going to lightly cut some notches in these. Now you don't want to go too far into these. I go into a lot more detail about stone setting on some of my other courses. So I'm going to kind of glaze by this one here a little bit. So here's the finished ring. Gone ahead and set the gemstones in there. Got it all polished up and oxidized. So that's it for this class. I'll put some links down in the description, which will talk a little bit more about polishing, stone setting, etc., which I covered on previous classes. So I'm not going to go into them on this one. Thanks for watching.